Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. Today's special guest is Nicole. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you because you're a psychic and you do so many other amazing, profound work. But before we start, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Nicole Starbuck. I'm a psychic empath, quantum energy healer, spiritual mentor, and life coach. And my mission and purpose is to empower people to tune into their intuition and use their spiritual gifts and abilities to create their dream life.
Ooh, that's so cool. I love that. Nicole, can you take us back? What was your childhood like? And when did your spiritual gifts started to develop?
Oh man, you went right for it.
I
So
did.
in my story, my spiritual gifts and abilities came through when I was 9 years old. That's actually the first time that I realized it was when I was 9 years old, but now looking back, I can see how it was there the whole time. So my spiritual gift is psychic intuition, and I say that knowing full well that every single person on this planet is psychic. It's just that over time and through social conditioning, we can lose touch with that gift and ability. But
Mhm.
I discovered this for myself when I was 9 years old. I was coming out of school to get picked up, and out of nowhere, I had this random thought, a bird's gonna poop on me right now. And I kid you not, it really did right then and there. It pooped
Yeah.
right here on my arm. And I remember looking down thinking, oh my gosh, this is so gross. And oh my gosh, I can't believe I just predicted this. And so
Yeah.
I went to the bathroom to wash it off, got
Mhm.
in the car, and just kind of kept it to myself because I grew up in a fairly conservative religious household where these kinds of things weren't really talked about. And when they were, it was under this lens of, oh, that's evil, that's wrong, that's bad, that's witchcraft, you're gonna go to hell. And I was like, oh, I don't want that. So just kept it to myself, but that didn't keep what was happening from
Mhm.
happening. I had a lot of predictive dreams and premonitions. I would have visions and they would come true. And so it just ended up creating a lot of anxiety for me
Mhm.
because I felt like I couldn't control what was happening. And I also couldn't control the outcomes that I was seeing. Imagine being 9 years old and seeing usually bad things happening and then not being able to do anything about them. So
Yeah.
over the years, I ended up having not only anxiety, but also depression because I wasn't living in alignment with my authentic truth. And this led to chronic illness because anytime we are at dis-ease, it creates disease in the body. So I ended up having multiple chronic illnesses as well. And this really came to a head in my early 20s. I thought I had been doing everything right, go to school, get a good job, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and everything will be fine. But it really wasn't. I ended up in the ER with a panic attack, and they were pushing for psychiatric medication to treat the anxiety and the depression. And I just thought, man,
Mhm.
there has to be another way. There has to be another way. And so I went all in personal growth and development. I started doing mindset and affirmations, and this served me pretty well for a while. But as the years went on, I got to be in my later 20s. So 20 years after I first discovered my gifts at 9 years old,
Mhm.
and I still was missing something. I was missing the soul. I was missing like me. I was missing my gifts and my abilities. And so I, in that journey, had a second sort of spiritual awakening in my later 20s where I brought back online all the gifts and abilities that I'd been hiding that whole time. And then since then have been really on a mission to empower other emerging empaths to develop their skills and abilities so that they don't have to go through that 20-year journey the way that I went through.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's fascinating. I think we do have that in common. Mine started very young and all the disease and things I'm diagnosed with, and it's fascinating. And yeah, I've had to go to psych wards, obviously schizophrenia and anxiety, and it's hard. Um, how do someone know if it's anxiety or something spiritually going on?
Yes. So I actually believe that our anxiety is our intuition talking to us. The anxiety is the superpower, but it's that we've allowed other energies and entities to interfere with that signal. So the sort of buzzing or all in the head sensation is actually the result of putting too much time and energy into what we think other people want or need from us. So I'll give you an example. If we think about our connection to source, right? We are a channel, we are a vessel for receiving. Every single person on this planet has a sense of intuition, right? So if it's perfectly clear, it's perfectly connected, there is no interference.
Mhm.
And so we tune into this signal, we tune into our higher self, we tune into God, source, universe, the divine, whatever you want to call that higher power. That's in an ideal world, right? With nothing else. So what happens is we live in this 3D physical reality where there are other energies, there are other entities that we allow to plug into our life. And I say we allow because I believe we are in control of our reality. We get to say what comes and what goes. So anytime we are plugging in, we are allowing that. So things would be most commonly our parents and what they believe, things from our past, our partner if we're in a relationship, our kids if we have them, the TV, the news, the media, the social media, religion, the school system, politics, even what country you live in, the culture that you're from, the ethnicity, any of that is all playing a role. So if you think about all these energies plugging into your life, how well do you think you're going to hear from yourself or from your intuition? It'd be like if you had your computer turned on to YouTube and your TV turned on to the news and your phone plugged into Spotify or Pandora, and then you turn on the dishwasher and the garbage disposal, and all this extra noise is happening. It's like,
Mm.
no
Yeah.
wonder people are stressed out, right? And so when we want to clear that channel and get like a clean slate and a
Mhm.
fresh start, is energetically disconnecting or removing those cords, anything that's not in alignment with our greatest good and highest potential, anything that you don't want to carry with you into the future, and then start to tune in to your unique energetic signature of where you feel truth in your body. Where do you actually hear or sense or experience intuition? For some of us, it's clairaudience or clairvoyance. So bringing in some of the different senses. I'm largely clairvoyant, which means I see things, and I'm also clairsentient. So I feel things.
Mm.
And then once you understand, okay, this is my feeling, this is my intuition, we can also start to bring in, okay, if I were to think about a particular situation that's causing me stress or anxiety, where do I feel that?
Yeah.
Because for me, truth, when I feel truth in my body, for example, the sky is blue. Yes, I feel that here, like in my gut. If I were to say the sky is green, no, it's not green, immediately my head shakes. The same with an anxiety or stressful situation. If I start thinking about a stressful situation, I feel that kind of here in my head, but also like as a pounding in my chest.
Mm.
That's not intuition because I just decided that intuition was in my gut, not over here. So you can start to sense
Mhm.
what's you and what's the anxiety.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. You're a psychic empath. I've heard of those two words separately.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us your method?
Yes, so I call myself a psychic empath, differentiate myself from a psychic medium. So one of the common myths and misconceptions is that all psychics talk to the dead. Many of us can, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
So a way of thinking of it is psychic is an umbrella term
Mm.
for anyone who experiences energy. And we
Mm.
all experience energy, right? So that's why we're all psychic to a degree, but
Mm.
there's different types or different flavors of psychics. So an empath is primarily going to use their body, their feeling, their sense of knowing to process energy. A channel is going to connect in with other energies and entities such as angels, ascended masters,
Mm.
ancestors, power animals. So they're receiving downloads from them. An
Mm.
oracle may not only share those messages, but also use divination tools to be able to discern the messages. And then a medium specifically will connect in with disembodied spirits, or what some people would call ghosts, to either help them cross to the other
Yeah.
side or to communicate with people still on this land of the living.
Mhm.
And so it's not that I can't or don't or won't talk to disembodied spirits or ghosts, but that's not my primary focus. My primary focus is deciphering messages from other energies and entities such as angels and ascended masters, using the body and what's happening there, and then also showing others how to do the same.
Yeah, yeah. Halloween was horrific for me. I just didn't like the feeling. It's like my entire house was full of dead people, specifically my room. I got so
Mm.
overwhelmed. I was terrified. So I don't know what I am. I know I'm an empath and many other things. I don't know how to control or talk or whatever it is. And I know I'm not alone. Um, so I don't know. I just didn't like Halloween. What was your experience with Halloween?
Oh yeah, Halloween was interesting. For anyone listening, the veil is very thin. What that means
Too
is
thin.
yeah, the connection between the 3D world and the spirit world is like
Mm,
it's so close, right? You can just reach out and touch it. It's palpable, like you're saying. It's like you can feel the energies in the room. So
mhm,
my experience with Halloween is we took our kids to something called a trunk or treat. So we went and they had all the cars lined up, and you could just go and trick or treat that way instead of going house to house. But it was a large number of people, specifically young people. And when you have a lot of young people and it's not very organized, it's very chaotic. So even stepping onto the field, I could feel the energy of it must have been like 1,000 people running around. It
ooh,
was a lot of energy. And I'm already there, and it takes a lot to get two small kids ready. So I'm already there and I try to go through it.
mhm,
And I got about halfway through and I realized this was not for me.
yeah,
And like from a sensory standpoint, I have not felt that overstimulated or overwhelmed in like years. Not since I was going through the deep dark depression and anxiety, right? It's a very similar type of vibration that as now as a empath who knows she's an empath, I'm like, okay, this is not my energy. I can put in my energetic force field, and then it reaches a point where like this is no longer in alignment. So let's step away,
mhm,
go somewhere else, calm, ground, recenter, right?
mm,
So there's the energy of everyone around, but then also what we're dealing with right now, like we're coming out of eclipse season,
oh,
right? We're stepping
so
in
so worse.
eclipse season. It's like, okay, Mercury retrograde and then Halloween and then eclipse season
Oh,
and there's a lot going on.
it's
So
like being hit so many times,
the energies right now, and then you take into consideration all the things that are happening in the world, right? Like world events, and then the impact that that's having on the clients and the impact that the clients are having on you. It's like, okay, this is where we get back into how am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? Is this actually my energy or is this someone else's? And what am I going to do about it?
Mhm,
Right.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I believe you. It was a mess, right? And it's such a powerful time, I think, because even dark energies, this is their playtime because most people are open, right? They like to be scared and spooked. Yeah, yeah. So your quantum energy healer, I love the word quantum. It sounds really smart. I don't know what it is. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, quantum energy healing it encompasses a couple of things. One, it's this idea that we can shift timelines or jump ahead or quantum leap from point A to point Z. So it's essentially skipping steps. And how we do that is a number of different ways. We can work on the cellular DNA level. We can get into inner child healing. We can get into past life healing, we can get into ancestral healing. So then we like to play and dance in the astral realm. So we're accessing all layers of self. So this life, past lives, and ancestral lines all at once. It does encompass a lot of guided meditation. That's a big one. As I got deeper and deeper into my meditation practice for myself and for my clients, I started touching into hypnosis before I realized that's even what I was doing.
Mm,
So hypnosis is not what you see in cartoons and in movies, like no one's going to control you, but it's just a way of getting into a very deep, relaxed state so that the logical brain shuts off and the creative thinking mind can tap into deeper layers of self, deeper senses of intuition. So
mhm,
it encompasses some of that. In my practice and in my studies, I've also gotten into Akashic records and past life regression. I do a lot of Reiki and light language as well. You may have noticed even on the video, I do a lot of stuff with my hands that's clearing and
yeah.
shifting energy as well. That's the light language coming through. And what else? I'm constantly studying different healing modalities. I have an interest in things like numerology and feng shui, and all of these things come through to help the person heal. So when I think of myself as a quantum energy healer, it's not so much I have the power and I'm healing you, but I see myself as a guide, as a vessel, as a channel, channeling this divine source, this healing energy to help you facilitate your own healing.
Yeah. In your opinion, what are some of the impacts that past lives can have with this present life?
Oh, yes, this is a great question. Whenever we see particular patterns coming up where it seems like the same thing is happening over and over and over and over again, we want to look and see, well, why is this happening? What's the lesson here? What are we meant to be learning?
Mhm.
And commonly, it can be something from early childhood, for example, a relationship with a parent that didn't go as we had planned or expected, and now we're reliving that lesson now, even today into adulthood. But even that original lesson of choosing that particular parent. I mean, people say that we don't choose our parents, but I think we do to a degree, because as star seeds, we're kind of like assessing where do we want to land, what time frame, what timeline, and what's the family going to be like, right? So in that sense, we do choose. But in the past life, there could also be that same pattern
Mm.
that as we age out, we pass on, we're now in between lives, we're saying, okay, we look back and we think, okay, learned this lesson, check, we don't have to keep relearning that. This one we didn't learn, so let's carry that over into the next life. So that, I mean, one has to believe in reincarnation for this to make sense, and if you don't, that's totally fine too, but that's my thought on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I'm totally into all of it. I do past life regressions on myself before bed, and I used to be terrified of doing it. Now I need it to sleep, and I've seen
Yeah.
so many things that are making sense. And my guides, the first thing they saw me was a toy dragon, a wooden toy dragon. I was
Oh,
sitting
wow.
in a circle of people, and we were just laughing, and I woke up laughing. And then over time, I learned that I'm a dragon. I'm like, oh, okay. That's what that was about. A year later, why are spirits so slow? Because they don't have time. We get that part, but it took a whole year for me to find out what I was. I don't know why. I'm so impatient sometimes. Can you relate?
I mean, I don't know that the spirits are slow, but it's like I think that in the moment, and then I look back and I think, oh, actually, I wasn't ready to hear it yet.
Mm, yeah.
You know, like this idea, like even talking about like dragons and star seeds, or some people would call them aliens. It's like 18 species of aliens. Like that sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Oh, I'm not from this planet, and I landed here on Earth, and I'm here to save the world, and like I'm one of these 18 aliens. Like it sounds kind of like, and this is where we get into this kind of territory of why so many highly sensitive people, highly empathic people, so many closet psychics think that there's something wrong with them, and why the world and Western medicine thinks there's something wrong with them is that
Mhm.
it quote doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found is that it doesn't have to make logical sense to be true.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's very much about power, right? If you start looking back into like power in politics and power in school systems and power in religion, power in the systems and structures of modern day society, if we were to tell people, oh yes, you're all powerful, and oh yes, you're very psychic, and oh yes, you have the ability to create whatever you want, well then they can't control us.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
power and control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do star seeds reading, and what are your process if you do?
I don't necessarily do starseed readings like specifically, but it often comes through naturally in the process of the type of work that we do, whether we're doing a quantum energy healing session or a past life regression or Akashic records readings. Almost always the starseed origins will come through.
Okay, because you
Yeah,
do light language, right? Which
I
would
do. Yeah.
correlate with star seeds. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
so my star seed origins are I'm from the Vega star and the Lyra constellation. The Lyrans are thought to be the ones that look like cats or lions. So
Yeah.
they have that sort of feline feature.
Yeah.
And so the light language that I sign and speak is a little different than, say, someone who's maybe from Arcturian or Pleiadian or even reptilian. Like it's very different,
Yeah.
but different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I was listening on YouTube of a lady, she does what she does with such excellence of dragon language. And the weird part was that I was speaking it without knowing what the heck I was doing or saying. And I
Yes,
talked to
that's
someone,
the thing.
yeah, he said,
Yeah,
you don't need to know. That's the
you
ego.
don't need to know.
The ego wants to know what's up. This is not making sense. But yeah, when
Yeah,
I was speaking and I heard it, when I'm stressed, I listen to it. I don't know,
yeah.
it calms me down, it connects me. It's fascinating. So, have you been
It's
able
very
to see
healing.
other planets?
Have I been able to see other planets?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, maybe this is TMI for podcast. I took some plant medicine and I took some psilocybin mushrooms and I took less than what's considered like a regular dose. And I'm not advising anyone to do this, only do this if it's true for you. A regular dose is 3 grams. I'm a lightweight. I took 2.5 and I was still
Okay.
out. So I'm out on the couch and I started in my journey. I actually went down into the depths, though I saw what some modern day religions would call hell. I actually like talked to what some religions would call the devil, and it was almost like this temptation of like
Mhm.
come to the dark side, but the dark side is like come to the side of the things that's not really in alignment for you. And I was like, no, I don't want that. And
Yeah.
so then my spirit guides showed me it was the history of humanity all the way from like the beginning of time, the creation of the earth, when
Yeah.
whether you believe in the Christian idea of that or like the starseed origins of like all the star seeds coming down and populating the earth. And it showed me that, and all the way to now. And it was actually that was the part where I felt the most release, was especially in the history of the witch and the witch wound, of like this idea of being psychic, being a healer. There's a lot of wounding there. And this is why people even today don't feel safe in
Mhm.
coming out and coming into their powers, is that fear of ridicule and persecution. So there's a lot of emotional release there. Like I was crying, bawling, just like letting it out because I could feel it. I could feel everyone's pain, the burning and the hanging and the killing and all that.
Yeah.
So got through that. And then when we had finished the history of humanity, the star seeds started connecting in. So each of the ambassadors from each of the star seed systems came in and like took me up to their planet. And it was like I could
Wow.
see what we would call like their palace or throne room. And they're like, this is the divine wisdom that we're passing on
Mhm.
to humanity. And some of it's in words and some of it's in pictures and some of it's in feelings. And it was kind of just like this massive download. And then it was each one. So if you think about 18 different starseed systems, and I don't have all of them in
Yeah.
memory, I know some of them, but all
Mhm.
the ones came to me. And then when they were done, it was like that part of the journey was done. And there was some other sensory things that happened there. But a big bulk of it was understanding the history of humanity and then understanding what it is on earth that we're here for.
Mhm. Wow, that is so cool. That's fascinating. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Wow. Would you say the beings that you saw, were they the Galactic Confederation by
I
any?
would say so. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Like the ambassadors of each one. Yeah.
oh, okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they don't take just everybody to see their ships,
Yeah.
and I
No,
haven't been.
no. Yeah, it was like getting on different ships and then like getting like going up into the sky and being in their planet. And yeah, it was very much like that. And again, it sounds like
Mhm.
crazy, but I've also seen like I'm thinking of an example. I host healing retreats. So we were at a retreat, and one of the women there, it's like she had a force field all her own. Like when I met her, you walk toward her and even just like 20 feet, like it was like stepping into a completely different vibration as you approach her. She's just kind of in her own world on a different level, on a different plane.
Yeah.
And she had this sort of sense like she's not from here and she didn't know why. And we got into her healing session, which any of the other ladies could watch.
Mhm.
And her starseed family actually came. And so the Arcturians actually like came, and these are the ones that look like aliens that we like stereotype the aliens, like the
Yeah.
little almond shaped heads and like silver or gray skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they came in on this egg-shaped spaceship into the room, and the rest of their like it was like her family was there in the room and then on the deck outside. And I wasn't the only empath, psychic empath in the room, so several of the other girls could see it too. And
Oh,
they came in and they had this message for her like this is not your home. Earth is not your home, but it's not time for you to come home yet.
oh,
And it's
wow.
like we're here, but it's not time for you to come home yet. And it almost felt like she was the princess too, like of like
Mhm.
planted here for a specific reason. And so in channeling these messages that were coming through, there was a huge release for her, and it just clicked for her why she always felt like she didn't belong, or why she wasn't like
Mhm.
why
Mhm.
she felt like she wasn't from here.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that way. I wish I could connect with my starseeds family. A shaman told me last time I connected with them, I was 7.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
since then I've felt, I don't know. I always knew I'm not from here, but I felt
Yeah.
abandoned, even though I had, you know, parents. I
Yeah.
There was just always a disconnection, even up to now. I need answers, but I don't know if they hear me. I talk to them all the time. And
Yeah.
yeah, that would be a really cool experience just
Yeah.
to be part of. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could do a whole healing session on you maybe some other time, but
Yeah.
um, what I've found is most people's, well, kids are born naturally psychic, naturally empathic,
Mhm.
and those gifts really want to come online between 7 and 9. So I came into mine when I was 9. I see in my practice, and then the clients I have and the kids that they have, it's between 7 and 9. But what happens when we're 7, 8, and 9? We're in school.
Oh, yeah.
Gifts get shut down. We have parents that don't understand or don't agree with
Yeah.
what's going on, and so it gets
Mhm.
tucked away and hidden. And then either we're still these star seeds that later come back into our gifts, such as I did in my later 20s, or it completely gets forgotten and we go on to be what I call sheeple in the world that just do what they're told, wake up, do the 9 to 5 grind, and then like live the rest of their lives never remembering what they're actually here for.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. They've shown me who I am. I'm like, why? And it's so fascinating because based on what I'm reading, I'm like, that's me. It's exactly how I am, the way I am. Have you come into contact with any dragons?
I have seen dragons come through. I have another client that is a dragon. She has lots of dragon energy. We connected her back into her dragon. I don't personally relate to dragon energy because that's not my particular
Yeah.
origins. But I do have a mentor that works a lot with dragon energy. So it's really interesting to see how, as I explore things, even if they don't resonate for me, for example, I'm studying under this coach and mentor. She's showing me about dragon energy. And the next week, I have a session with a client. We're in a meditation. It turns out she's also a dragon, has dragon energy. So even if something doesn't necessarily relate for me, I'm always learning and growing and picking things up because I know it's to serve someone else.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you also channel by any chance?
Yeah, so I channel different guides.
Mm.
I'm pretty open, so I've set the intention with the universe, like however I need to be used, go ahead and use me. So I will channel things for myself often, different angels, ascended masters,
Mhm.
ancestors, power guides, but then also like if I'm with a particular client, things will come through for them. Like my first experience with mediumship. It was somebody's grandmother came in, and then I had a client, she worked with a particular angel. So that angel came in and started channeling messages for her. And then I was just talking to one of my group programs today, how when we create a container, for example, a one-on-one client or a group program or an offer, that also creates a channel for receiving, particularly for them. So when I have a client, that opens up that connection. So now I'm channeling stuff from my team to them, channeling stuff from their team to them. Automatic writing is a great way to channel things too, if people are interested in opening that up. But a lot of this is about intention. To what degree are we truly open to receiving? To what degree are we truly open to being used and being of service?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then just opening up more and more and more
Yeah.
and more.
What is the difference between trance channeling and actual channeling? I never get it. I thought channeling was channeling.
I think channeling is channeling.
Yeah.
Maybe if you want to look at the difference between what's an induced state of consciousness versus what can you like intentionally put yourself into. So the example with the plant medicine, right? That's an induced altered state, but you don't have to be induced in order to achieve an altered state, right? So you could get into, say, ecstatic dance and get into a trance through dance. That would be a form of induced
Mhm,
channeling. But you can also just connect in energetically. So something that I like to do in my practice, for example, if I need to do any sort of writing,
mhm.
is I connect into my guides, connect into the muses, and I just allow it to come through as it wants to come through. So that's not induced, but is energetically set as an intention.
Yeah. Are there some things that people who are exploring channeling should look out for? Example, bad entities or other energies that are not theirs coming into their bodies.
Yes. So this is a great question. And this is one of the things that sometimes holds people back from fully acknowledging or developing their gifts, is that fear of what you call bad energies or bad entities. Um, I would say, good and bad creates a sort of judgment, like it's right or wrong. I don't necessarily believe there's a right or a wrong. There's only what's true for you. But
Mm,
what I always say is set the intention of connecting in with only for your greatest good and highest potential.
mm,
And so then you're only going to attract what's going to help you or help your clients, if you're in a practice, to move forward. And
mhm,
then continually going in and connecting in. I connect in with the earth below and the sky above. So I'm drawing upon cosmic energy to
mhm,
restore and rebalance my physical body. And then when I connected in, this allows my sort of soul fire, the light within me, to radiate out. And I use this as a sort of energetic force field to keep that positive energy in, or negative energy or anything that's not for my greatest good out. So I still get to be in control, even though I'm completely open. You're setting that boundary of only what's for my greatest good.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it does. How would you define spiritual energy? Because we're using energy to connect right now through the laptop, the camera. I need lighting and a speaker.
Yeah.
But I think some people don't understand energies that they cannot see or feel. We can, as empaths, we understand it, but
Yeah.
how would you define it to people who doesn't know?
Oh, yeah. So universal energy, spiritual energy, life force, chi, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm,
it's all around you. It's like the air. It's just there. You can't see it, but it's there. You can breathe it, so you can experience it, and it's there, right?
yeah.
And with as far as experiencing the energy, it's, let's not limit ourselves to one particular way. Like, let's not just assume that, oh, I can't see things, I can't visualize. Even in meditation, I don't see or I don't visualize, so that means I'm not psychic. There's lots of other ways to experience
Mhm,
energy. For example, you may just know things. Maybe you hear things, maybe you smell things, maybe you taste things. Like, smell and taste are the least common clairs, but also, like, if you're smelling and tasting stuff for no reason that you can think of, like, that could also be
Mhm.
some of that energy coming through.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I was thinking of Tyler Henry, Hollywood medium, if you've heard of him or not. And as he does his reading, they're very unique and vast because he would experience how a person died. I don't know the
Yeah.
name for that, like the choking or whatever it may be. What would you call that? What is that?
Oh man, I would it's not a very common one, but I would put that in with the clairsentience, which is the clear feeling.
Ooh,
Gosh, that's a tough one. I mean, I set the boundary with my guides because I would get a lot of clairolfactants, which is clear smelling, and the clairgustance, which is clear tasting. I would smell
ooh,
things that were really unpleasant that actually weren't there, like
yeah,
trash, sewer, like that kind of thing. And
ooh,
then the tasting things, it'd be like weird stuff like rotten food or metallic like blood in the mouth, but there's nothing there.
yeah.
And so it's like, hey, could you just like shut that off and look at something like
Yeah,
pleasant that
yeah,
actually needs to come through?
yeah,
And yeah, so you can set that energetic intention too. So I earlier you said that before bed you do the past life regression and it helps you
yeah,
sleep. So I noticed for me, I was waking up frequently throughout the night and then not feeling rested. So I'd wake up the next day and it'd be like more tired than
yeah.
before I went to bed. And I realized that my soul was traveling while I was sleeping. It was like I was on this cosmic mission. I'm going to go out and do some stuff while I'm
Yeah,
sleeping. And then, like, none of that. So before I go to bed, if I don't feel like astral traveling in my sleep, I set that energetic intention and say, okay, like, we're going to stay grounded in my body. We're not going to travel tonight. Like, stay here. You don't need to save the world all in one night. And then I wake up, usually sleep through the night and wake up more well rested.
yeah, yeah. Same thing happened to me. I didn't understand what astral projection traveling was. I had to talk to a psychic medium to find out.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's something really wrong with me. I'm waking up. I feel like I've had 20 concussions. I'm tired. I can barely crawl. Obviously, it's medical, but it was just that my soul. I don't know where it goes, but I don't know. I don't know all the places that it goes, but it doesn't
Yeah.
stay there. Let's talk
And
about OBE. I
yeah.
have that as I'm talking to you 24/7, and it is shit terrifying. It's not for the weak. All right.
Out
So
of body experience. Yeah. For anyone that doesn't
yeah,
know what
yeah.
OB.
I've had that since getting diagnosed with mental health diagnosis, and it hasn't gone away. I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm outside of my body. I don't know if my crown chakra is left open. I don't know. What is your experience with it? Or have you
My
had?
yeah, my experience with OBEs or out of body experience. I want to say because we keep touching on this, like this idea of mental health, mental illness, health, physical illness, medical stuff is I believe that all of these are signs and symptoms of spiritual gifts. So I actually don't believe in mental illness or in physical illness. I believe that everything has a spiritual cause, and the more that we align with that, the less stress, anxiety, disease we're going to experience. So
Mhm.
just throwing that out there as a little disclaimer. That's my opinion, take it or leave it. But as far as the out of body experience, I know exactly what you mean. It's like we live here in the 3D physical world, right? This is what you can see and feel and touch, right? And then we have in these like layers or dimensions, the 4D, which is when we start having these conversations, we can start visualizing and conceptualizing, right? And then we have 5D, it's like where our soul or our spirit starts traveling and we're kind of not in this plane. So I have this experience all the time. Like it's
Oh,
like I'm kind of up here, but I'm also right here. And then it's like coming back into my body and kind of going like
yeah,
flip-flopping back and forth.
yeah,
And so often I want to be up here.
yeah.
I would much rather be meditating. I would much rather be having these conversations. I would much rather be in a transcendental state, would much rather be, in my trance altered state of consciousness, induced or not induced. And then the reality is we live here.
Mm,
And so it's dealing with those day-to-day
yeah. Hmm.
frustrations, right? Day-to-day routines, like roles and responsibilities. For example, I'm a wife and a mother of two small kids. We have extended family living with us right now. There's all those stressors. In this particular world that we live in, we have something called money, which is actually just currency because it's not backed by anything. And I mean, you want to take it a step further, I actually think that the movie The Matrix is a documentary, and this whole thing that we live in is just a simulation or a hologram that we're all co-creating with the collective consciousness. So,
Hmm.
yes, out of body's experience. I know it, I feel it, I experience it every day. And here's the thing is we can look at something like that and judge it and think that there's something wrong with it, or we can simply accept it for what it is and say, you know what, this is how it is for me, and that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I've accepted it. I just don't really talk much about it because of the medical side of where I'm getting treated, right? I mean, who with mental health issues want to say, "Hey, I'm an alien. I've seen this and that." Nobody.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah. It's like
someone.
I'm right there. When I was getting treated for anxiety and depression, you go into the clinic and they ask you, do you believe that you are a God? Do you hear voices or see things that aren't there? And if you're like being honest with yourself and you're in your like sane sound of mind, I'm gonna mark no because I don't want to be hospitalized or committed,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But like, why does that have to be wrong?
Ooh.
Why does that have to be wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I've been asked that a million times, and psych wards, and I'm like, I'm not going to tell you nothing because I get medicated. That's I'm not alone. There are people who struggle with that, and yeah, I've fought my gifts all my life. It's they can medicate the physical body, but I know my soul knows what's up. I just don't know what's up. I'll find out eventually. Yeah. Let's talk about hypnotherapy and meditation. In
Yes.
your own words and opinion, what are some myths that you've heard about both?
Oh, yes. Okay. So we'll start with the hypnotherapy because that's the one that like is a little more controversial for some people. So people think that hypnotherapy is someone controlling you, right? Like you say like a certain keyword and you start acting like a chicken. That's not what it is. So hypnosis is putting the brain waves in a particular relaxed state
Mhm.
so that the left brain, the logical thinking side, the part that wants to control and question, what you say, the ego that wants to know all the answers, that part will shut off. And the creative thinking brain, the intuitive side, the spiritual side, the part that's connected into your higher self can
Mhm.
turn on. And so you are in a more suggestible state, but suggestible doesn't mean controlled. What suggestible means is that you are more open to receiving and exploring questions for inquiry.
Yeah.
Now, I use hypnosis. We'll go back. So
Mhm.
in a guided meditation or in any sort of meditation, it's sort of like it's an intentional journey, but there's not always a specific
Mhm.
desire or outcome. So in a healing session, we get into meditation and it's more open-ended, like an open-ended question of what would spirit like for me to see or experience today, and going in and even if we are setting an intention, for example, we're going to do a meditation to open up the root chakra, open up the sacral chakra. Whatever comes through during that meditation is whatever comes through. Like I did a sacral meditation for one of my programs. We ended up going to the depths of the underworld. There was three witches around a cauldron and they were stirring things into the pot. We threw in all the things from the past that were no longer alive. Like I had no idea that's what was going to happen in the meditation. That's just what I channeled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, for a hypnosis, it's usually a specific trait, behavior, action that we're calling into shift. And for example, like quitting smoking, quitting drinking, losing weight, perhaps there's a particular
Mhm.
false limiting belief.
Mhm.
Usually something like that, it takes the full session, so the full hour, versus like a guided meditation. We could do a guided meditation in 2 minutes.
Mhm.
Usually a hypnosis session takes the full hour, and there's usually some sort of script. Now,
Mhm.
the script can be channeled, but it usually follows a specific progression of like, okay, we're counting down, we're going into a different state of consciousness, and then here's the journey for the hypnosis, and then this is the intentional shift that we're creating, and then here's the count back up to return to the body. So it's,
Yeah.
I think of the hypnosis as being more structured with
Mm.
more specific outcomes, like there's a specific goal or intention. I think as meditation is more, also meditation is something someone can do on their own. It doesn't have to be guided. Usually with hypnotherapy, there's a hypnotherapist involved.
Mhm.
Yeah, does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I do them by myself. They're not pleasant. It's someone really needs to have guts to do them by themselves, because I've seen some horrific stuff that are making sense in many ways.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then you also do Reiki. Is it
Yes.
Reiki or Reiki?
Reiki. I say Reiki. Maybe I've been saying it wrong my whole year. I
Yeah.
realized my whole life, I realized I had been saying, the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer,
Uh, oh,
Ho'oponopono.
yeah, like that. Yeah.
I had been saying it wrong for a very long time, and I had to
Oh,
like
wow.
publicly apologize because like I didn't realize I was saying it wrong. So
Yeah.
I say Reiki.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the question for
What
Reiki?
is Reiki? Why the hands, not anything else? What's in the hands that heals that other parts of us doesn't?
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. What's in the
take me
hands,
back.
heels? Okay, yeah. Uh, well, what else are you gonna move? You're not gonna like move your elbow, right? Like you're not gonna move your foot.
Yeah, 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 that's true. That's true.
What's in the hands that heals? And then I get this question too, like what's the difference between Reiki and light language? So I think of Reiki, Reiki is an ancient Japanese practice where it's a specific set of symbols
Mhm.
mean and do a specific thing within the energy field. And whether you're touching or not touching, as you're drawing these symbols on or over the body, it's recalibrating based on that specific intention.
Yeah.
I think of light language as being a little more fluid, where it's being channeled. It's, for anyone that doesn't know, light language is considered to be the language of the angels. So it's channeled from the angelic realm. It can be spoken, it can be sung, it can be signed, which is what you can see me do with my hands, and then also drawn. And so with the light language, it's not like, oh, this hand gesture means this or this syllable means that. It
Mhm.
just does whatever it needs to do in that person's field.
Yeah, yeah. It's out of this world. That's how I describe it. It is, it is. It's fascinating and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
And two, like just in bridging the gap, like I said that I grew up in a conservative religious household, so I didn't really talk to these things about these things with my mom. And then my mom and I were having a conversation recently, and I was talking about, psychic intuition and light language, and then she's like, "What's light language?" As I explained it to her, and she goes, "Is it like speaking in tongues?" I said, "Yeah." Some people call it speaking in tongues. She's like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." And I'm like, "Why have you never told me that you can do that?" She's like, "Because people think it's weird." I'm
mm,
like, "So,
yeah,
like, what difference does that make?" Yeah,
yeah. And I've also heard of spiritual medical mediums. Like,
yeah.
they heal. I don't know how they do it. I'd love to.
Yeah. Oh, I like medical mediumship.
Yeah.
That's something I do on request. But there's a couple ways you can do this. So a medical intuitive reading, so going into the person's field and actually seeing like where there's disease or dis-ease in the body and then where it originates from. I can actually see it in the person's field. So like when I first started learning quantum energy healing from one of my coaches and mentors,
Mhm.
she was having us practice on each other, and I picked up on something in the woman's, I think it was right ovary. And she goes, "I just got diagnosed with ovarian cancer," and like that side, or I was like, "Oh man."
Oh,
And
wow.
so I played around with this with myself. I had endometriosis and an ovarian cyst, and went in and did something called psychic surgery because I can see and I can feel
Yeah.
where there's disease or disease. It's like I went in with my little like energetic scalpel and like cut out the scar tissue and like removed it and did like little like laparoscopic surgery and removed the cyst. And because they had told me, they said, oh, you're gonna have a really hard time having kids if you have all these issues, and I'm like, forget that.
Yeah.
And I went in and did my psychic surgery, and then within 2 months got pregnant with my daughter. And then after I had my daughter, they went back in and did a scan to see like what was going on with the endometriosis, what was going on with the cyst, and they're like, oh, it's gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. That's fascinating. Yeah, yeah. I don't remember her name, but she recently did one for me. It was a distant healing. I think she's in
Yeah.
the States. She's been on
Yeah.
Guide,
Yeah.
and she did that. And as I listened to the recording, she didn't specify anyone's name, but she said there are lots of angels here. There are lots of surgeons and guides and source, and like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I see my human mind cannot comprehend it, but I know my soul gets it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just something to keep like you are a spiritual being having a human experience.
Mhm.
Spiritual being having a human experience. Doesn't have to make sense to be true.
Yeah, yeah. And do you do soul retrieval and have heard of it?
Yeah, yeah, soul
Okay.
retrieval. Are you asking particularly about the soul fragments or retethering the soul to the body?
I'd say both because I need something done. I had something done with a shaman, but I need more. But yeah, can you
Yeah.
touch on both of them?
Yeah, so the soul fragments is when we have particular traumas in our life. This can be little t trauma, big T trauma, or in any way, any situation where we've invested time or energy into something and maybe didn't have it reciprocated or given back to us. A little part or a little fragment of ourself gets left behind. And this can also get left behind, like you were talking about in
Mhm.
previous lifetimes. Aspects of self can be left behind. So when we do this, like the returning of self,
Mhm.
I always look at it like an obelisk or a giant crystal, like kind of like the Washington Monument. And if you imagine there's like little bits of it missing, these are the little parts of self. And so it's visualizing and going in and bringing in all those aspects of self back into integrate with the wholeness of who you are.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And then that helps activate that channel for receiving, because it's the same thing too. It's like energetically, if there's parts of yourself that are in, say, the past or in particular situations or in like people that are maybe no longer with you or no longer serving you, you're not going to have as much energy to focus in and create that channel and connect in with source. And
Mhm.
then the retethering to yourself, this is when we talked about how we're here in the 3D, but then it feels like we're still kind of floating up here.
Oh,
It's the
she just
grounding,
described me.
the grounding back in and the
Yeah.
centering back in. I'm feeling it now. Like it's bringing the words to what you're describing, because we start getting into these more metaphysical, esoteric concepts, and it's like it comes through. And when I hear it in my head, it's like nonsense light language, and then it's communicating it in English words.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
hurry up, Nicole, like bring the words to it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Um, you channel, is there anything that you feel that my audience should know of? Um, in a sense, any messages anyone wants to give or bring out? I don't know if that's something you do during interviews or not.
Yeah, collective message.
Mhm.
Let me tune into this. Because every interview is different. I get this question sometimes, like, what would you like to say, or if there's something else you'd like them to know, and it's a little bit different
Mhm.
each time. The thing that's coming through actually, this is unusual. This doesn't isn't usually what comes through. But this sort of like doomsday or ends of times, like for those of us that are feeling like the end is near,
Mm.
the end is near, but also that doesn't have to be something to be afraid of. It could also mean that we're that much closer to coming home. Like our work here is coming to a close and we're almost home.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, the end has every day feels like the end. You know, people have said the end of the world would come for thousands of years, right? Would you say the end also as a rebirth of the soul and ignite for passion and purpose as a
Yeah.
human down here?
I think the end can mean a lot of things. And for the end is always the beginning of something else. And there's been many moments in my life where I thought, I'm dying, this is the end. And I was dying and it was the end. But like of that particular version of me.
Mm,
And so you could be, not you specifically, but whoever's listening
yeah.
could be feeling that as that version of you is passing away. And like, are you willing to let that go
Mhm.
to embrace
Yeah.
the next level of self?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
then,
yeah.
sorry, go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say on a larger scale, like not just in our own lives, but as a collective, as humanity, it's the old ways are dying.
Yeah.
A lot of us felt that, in 2020, it was like that old way of doing things was dying.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
there's a new way coming forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more of us that wake up and bring this online, the more quickly that'll shift
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
raise the consciousness of humanity.
Yeah.
But death
I
doesn't have
know.
to be a bad thing. We don't have to be afraid of it.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say, for people to not fight it, because I'm still going through a spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul. It is horrific. I don't know. For me, that's how I can describe it. Because my ego would not surrender and let go, and then over time, I don't know. Even my diet changed, and I'm like, who are you?
Oh yeah. I had to do I started getting this severe pain in my stomach. And I remember that happening about 5 years ago, which was my last spiritual awakening. And I'm going through like one even now spiritual awakening. And so I thought, okay, last time I had to do a liver cleanse to flush out my gallstones.
Yeah.
I had gotten calcium gallstones. And when you do this, it's like your appetite changes,
Hmm.
what you can eat changes. You can't just eat all the same foods anymore. And you're just making your peace with what it is. Okay, I'm doing another gallstone cleanse. I'm changing my diet. It's all good. It just gets to be what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I couldn't even eat meat. I've eaten
Yeah.
meat all my life.
I couldn't eat meat, dairy, wheat,
Eggs,
or
yeah,
soy.
yeah,
Yeah. Eggs I could eat, but the meat, dairy, wheat, soy.
yeah, yeah. I'm on
Had
that
to
journey.
completely cut it out. Yeah.
I can't.
But it can also be temporary. So for me, I got to eat meat, wheat, soy, dairy,
Hmm.
except for milk. I still can't drink milk, but for 5 years. And then it was only within the past couple of weeks that Spirit was like, nope, time to cleanse again. So,
Oh wow, yeah, yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I have a few questions as we wrap up. Um, how can people overcome fears of the other side or their gifts?
oh, fears of the other side or their gifts. These are tied. Where is the fear coming from? Because is that actually your fear? Or is that a projection of, say, a parent or a partner that they have some fear around your gifts or the other side? That was a big one for me. Um, and then can you trust not only yourself, but can you trust source enough to feel the fear and do it anyway?
Mm, that's a big one.
Because it's not so much like, oh, let me get rid of this fear and then I'll do the thing. It's like, can you take that leap of faith and trust that then it will appear
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and do it even though it doesn't make logical sense?
Hmm. Yeah, sink or swim, just jump. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely learning to trust and surrender. If someone told me I'd do a podcast years ago, I'm like, what drugs are you on? Right? It's surrendering. My other question for you, what is the meaning of life for you?
Ooh, meaning of life for me is to be who we came here to be.
Mhm.
I almost said do what we came here to do, and then Spirit said, no, it's not about doing, it's about being. To
Uh-huh.
be who we came here to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's awesome. Last question for you. Where can my listeners find you, support your work, and work with you?
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So you can find me online at oracleacademy.com. It's a little play on words between Aura and Oracle. So it's AURACLE academy.com.
Mm.
It's also where you'll find my free quiz to discover your spiritual superpower or your intuitive type, how you can best connect in with source. You'll also find there the psychic school, which is going to be opening up for enrollment if you'd like to continue to develop your psychic abilities. And then I'm also on Instagram as Nicole Starbuck, username Nicole.Starbuck. That's Nicole, little dot in the middle, followed by my last name, which is like the coffee, but without the S at the end. And then I'm also on Facebook. You can find my free group called the Conscious Collective there as well.
Ooh, that's awesome. I love
Yeah,
the work that you're doing. I'm always so excited to talk to people like you. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Nicole. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Soul to soul, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.